And there was three clear themes that were coming out from the learners and some of the difficulties and advantages of home working that they were experiencing. And the first one was around communication. So, you know, some people were missing that side-by-side thing. They were missing camaraderie with their colleagues, the social side of things, but also the ability to appreciate body language, which happens when you're in the same room as people. Fatigue was another big thing. You know, people going back to back on Zoom calls, it got a bit fatiguing for people. They weren't experiencing perhaps the same engagement as when you're in a room full of people. And collaboration was a third theme as well. How do they do that effectively with their teams, especially with new people coming onto teams and leaving teams as well? So those were three strong themes that were coming through. But on the positive side, people were enjoying less travel, and people were also enjoying less of a formal working atmosphere as well. So that was going down well with people. So I wanted to play that back to you folks, but also ask you very briefly how you're finding remote working and what sort of difficulties are you experiencing. So if you want to put something in the chat, I know Helen's having a look at that. But just have a little consider about that. If people want to dive in and say something now, great stuff. But we have got a big group and we're trying to move things along quite quickly. Okay. So thinking about what the learners played back to us, here's a comparison with a wider study. Now this was done in November 19. It was pre-pandemic and it was across 3,500 workers worldwide. So perhaps you can relate there to the struggles that these folks are experiencing. And if we throw in the additional lockdown strains, then these struggles are really magnified. Another pain points currently might be technical issues where people don't feel, they feel a little bit detached at home, perhaps from the support they had in the office. A lack of structure and schedule for people can be very disorientating. Also that team building and socialising aspect of being with your colleagues. Misconstrued communications as well, big issues there. And maybe a sense of being judged. Do people know what the output of people is when they're working at home? And there's always that work-life balance thing that people struggle with when they're home working. So this is what wider surveys are telling us. But it's all not bad news. There is an upside. I don't think anybody misses a commute. I certainly don't. I have to go into the centre of London usually. Don't miss that at all. We get to see more of our family. And we've got flexibility if we choose to own our time and work with a schedule that suits us. Has anybody else got anything to share, perhaps over chat, regarding the upside of working at home?
So Simon, there are a few on the chat. Some people are enjoying it more than they thought, loving no travel but missing the colleagues. I think the assumption that people are going to be sat and available all day on Teams is a negative. Some people are missing the travel and the commute, missing the face-to-face interaction. Yeah, so it's a positive for some parents as well, for single parents, not having to go on the trains. Yeah, I think it seems to be that, you know, the summer really is people are missing the person interactions, the personal thought, the support from their colleagues. Yeah,
and this shows the diversity of personalities as well, and how people like to work. So some people, it really suits them working at home. For me, I love the being able to put my laptop down and think about a problem and really focus on what's going to make a difference in this particular scenario, a particular scenario. It really helps me focus rather than having the buzz of a project team around me. That's me personally. Okay, thanks for that feedback, Helen. So you guys, you're not alone. Everybody's feeling the same worldwide, so we're all in the same boat, so to speak. So let's have a look about what gets us engaged and how is that a challenge when we're remotely working. So here's 5 elements we should consider. The first one here is contributing. When we or our teams are contributing, there's a real change in our brain chemistry and in our body chemistry. We become attentive. It's the absolute opposite of being passive and receiving. We're actually taking control and doing something, and that brings engagement with it. The feeling of being valued, when we're heard, we feel valued, and it's one of our basic needs, so that brings engagement. Structure, I spoke about structure already. This provides direction for people, which can be very comforting, and there's a feeling of certainty when previously there wasn't certainty or uncertainty. And people can start seeing ahead and joining the dots to a particular outcome. So structure can be very good for engagement. Autonomy, this is really important. It's one of the things that we value above everything else as human beings. So we need to preserve this for people. For example, if you want somebody to do something, outline what it is you want them to do, but then don't tell them how to do it. And people will really surprise you with their ingenuity and creativity. You've just got to guide them and give them that environment for them to be able to do that. And that brings engagement from workers. Fairness is really important as well. So if the process that we operate with is perceived as fair, then people will go through brick walls for each other. And that's one of our evolutionary traits as human beings. So there's 5 things that we can think about there in our working environment and the way we operate to promote engagement. And this goes for whether we're in the office or not. So let's consider how we can preserve the 5 elements of engagement that I've outlined there when remote working. So I'm going to chuck a grenade in here. How about we have more workshops and less meetings? Ooh, controversial, but it is Friday afternoon, why not? So we want to avoid feeling like this guy in the caption here. Maybe you're like me, where you're a little bit turned off by too many meetings, where they become talking shops. You get dominant characters, there's no agenda or outcome, and you seem to be going round in circles. And more importantly, this is really taking time away from the things, the tasks that you know really matter for your job. So there has to be a better way. There's got to be a better way than endless meetings that I've just described. So this is what an online workshop could look like. Essentially, it's a simple electronic whiteboard with a few images and a real structure to follow. So people can see their ideas in front of everybody else. So there's that peer support thing going on. And they can see the session taking place and the direction they're going towards an outcome. And that can be very satisfying for people. But the key here is really the part about preparation. We can't just dive into these things, and facilitation of the group once we've got the workshop up and running. And if we do this well, we get all of the benefits there on the left hand side, and all of these add up to engagement. So over chat, has anybody had experience of using these types of tools? And perhaps compare that to meetings where they're not using these tools.
Nothing so far, Simon. Okay. What I will add to your previous slide is a few mentioned about mental health of their teams, and perhaps something like this where they're engaging and they might feel supported. Would that benefit them? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Sarah's saying she's used whiteboard. Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, there's many of these types of, I mean, a few PowerPoint slides with some electronic post-it notes is exactly the same. You know, you can make these up yourself, but it's the equivalent of going into a meeting room, putting the brown paper around the walls, and then, you know, starting to plot out ideas. Exactly the same. Excuse me. So we might consider a tool with additional features once we start to get good at this remotely. And I've picked out Klaxoon here. There's so many that are on the market. You just have to search for them, and they give you all those features there on the left hand side. And you can have multiple templates to help you design your session depending on what you're looking for.
Some of them have got a cost, so if you've got a budget for that, great stuff. And as well as being engaging, the visual side of our brains remembers more for longer. So ideas that and information that are captured over this format, they tend to stick. So there's that added benefit. And when these tools are used well, they're extremely powerful to facilitate the progress of any problem, situation, meeting, team, any situation. They're really, really powerful for getting us to where we want to be. And importantly, we're doing this in a collaborative way, you know, picking up on what the team, the feedback from the learners this morning. Collaboration was a big issue. So this starts to introduce the concept of design thinking, which is the way products and services are brought to the market. And you can easily apply that to the way that we do things internally. It's an internal product or service that we're trying to create as an outcome. And I've got links in a resource slide later on in the deck to people who specialise in design thinking. So you can go and investigate that and see how you can apply that to your own situations. So clearly we need to set up and do some preparation in advance. And I think a few minutes invested can create a reusable structure that we can use again and again. So it might just be a one-off investment in the setup. And we would want to think about what do we want from the session. What's our outcome? Think through the purpose. Who are the teams who are going to take part in this and the groups? And it's okay to change it. We can be flexible. We need to ask people as well. Because we've all got different learning styles and personalities, and find out what works for some people and adapt your approach. Also do a trial run, so we want to test our tech out and really check that everybody can access it and are comfortable with the process. And this will allay your fears and the people who are taking part as well. All adds up to engagement. And structure. Consider short sessions. This is one. Building breaks, check on process. Do people follow the process? And understanding as well. Are people understanding what you want them to? And try and finish sessions on a cliffhanger. For example, if we've had a lot of ideas come together, we're looking to shortlist. So we vote on those. That's a great time to stop a session because people are dying to find the outcome of a vote. Did their idea make it? And that's what you lead into the next session. Everybody will be coming along to that. So you really sort of look to strike while the iron is hot and maintain momentum. Extremely powerful for engagement. I think it's probably a fair challenge to say that we haven't always got the time to plan and prepare. But really, if we were to look at that, what we're actually saying is, as things stand, I haven't got the time to plan. Which really equates to changing things can be a little bit painful and uncertain, especially when we haven't got we're overwhelmed currently with what we've got on our plate. And this is because we like our comfort zone. It's very easy to start constructing one and we're not aware of it. And we all do this. But if we consider that on the other side of our comfort zone, we go through a little bit of short-term pain, that's where the potential lies, and that's where the possibilities lies, both for ourselves and our teams. So I'd like us to consider the quote on the right there. And not only consider it, but think about an issue yourself and what's your first smallest doable step to taking you towards that, achieving what's being described there in that quote. Okay, so that's a real whistle-stop tour through some information, some ideas and some experience. I'm going to take a little pause here. We've got 10 minutes and perhaps we can share some experiences or insight that you guys have got. You can ask any questions. I know we've got a large group, so we'll have to see how we do that. And there might be some specifics you'd like us to address. Maybe that you could send questions over on chat. I do have some more supporting information to share with people, but let's take a pause at this moment. feel free to say what's on your mind.
Hi, hello.
Hiya.
Hiya. I have a regular a team session on a Monday with my team. We just call it a team huddle, and we have regular sessions within the week. And what I've done recently is to make it a bit more interactive, is to have a quiz or do something slightly different. And we've mixed it up a little bit, and we found that helps in terms of not just having regular sessions that can be quite laborious on Teams where one person's talking, but have something slightly different away from work, but within work, where everybody's involved, be it a quiz or be it somebody doing some kind of a drawing and like a Pictionary game. And I think that helps to boost energy levels, and it helps people feel a little bit more involved when they're working remotely.
That's a great idea. I'm going to nick that. I take part in a stand-up 3 times a week that is just going through the motions at the moment, but it's not my part to sort of stand in and sort of say things, but I'm going to suggest that. I think that's a really good idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
How about other people? Have other people got things that they do to just freshen things up a bit when we're remote?
Hiya. Yeah, I use Breakout Rooms quite a lot. So that when I've got big groups that I'm working with, I can split them up and split them out, and it kind of becomes little meetings within meetings, so they can come up with their own ideas, own suggestions, and then feed back to the bigger group, which I find that works well when you're trying to get engagement from everyone rather than the same people putting the same points across. Yeah,
smaller groups, people are more likely to speak up, aren't they? That's really good. Does that take a lot of facilitating? Is that difficult logistics wise or straightforward?
No, it's not too bad, Simon. Teams have now actually created the feature, but originally it's just a case of setting up, again, a bit going back to what you were saying, a little bit of preparation. So splitting out the rooms in advance. And then I just get 2 people, 1 for each room, to kind of manage it, to call people in. But now Teams have actually created that feature, so it's automated now, so it's a lot easier.
Great stuff. Yeah, I'll have to investigate that. I want to become an expert on online facilitation. You know, I've done some sessions before, but these tools have always escaped me, but I need to really get into them, definitely. Okay, thanks for that feedback. Brilliant stuff.
Simon, Michael is talking about, and a few others talking about Kahoot. I know that we use Kahoot at Apprenticeship Recruitment, but that's a really good thing for quizzes. So it's an app that you can use on your phone as well. Wirra does they do a coffee catch up on Fridays, where they have 10 minutes work discussion, then switch to talking about anything that's not work related. I like that, Wirra. Yeah. Rebecca agrees about the weekly update meeting, so that they have a weekly update meeting, suggested a 5-question quiz at the end of each weekly call. I know my daughter who works for Abbott's, they do the same. They have a Tuesday quiz and a coffee morning on a Friday. So yeah, some good ideas coming through there. Thank you.
Wonderful stuff. Yeah. I think this shows the, I mean, obviously there's ingenuity within this group, but definitely within the learner group as well. People were coming out with a lot of thoughts, a lot of ideas, a lot of experiences, or a lot of sort of expression of what they're experiencing. And if we can capture that and really mold it into practical things, you know, people will start solving their own particular issues and problems. And that really is engaging when you're able to do that. What do people think about the concept of do less but do it better? There's another grenade I've just chucked in on a Friday afternoon. What do folks think about that? Or is there too much pressure in organisations to have calendars full of meetings? Are we all taking on too much and not doing it as well as if we were doing less, but doing it better, perhaps? Have people got meeting fatigue? That's quite a controversial thing to say, but I think there's a lot of people out there who do feel this.
Aidan, I don't know if you want to to say something? Just put something on the chat about it being a balancing act. Don't you want to expand on that?
Yeah, so, yeah, sorry, I was just reading my comment back and it probably looks really negative with how I've written it. But I suppose it is a bit of a balancing act because, you know, you don't want the guys feeling isolated. You want to keep the team talking and, you know, sort of the banter flowing. I think Kahoot's a great way of doing it. However, I don't know about anyone else, but after a year worth of quizzes, I'm a bit over them. And apart from like really the limited amount that's on telly, the news, you know, there isn't a lot to talk about. The news is a bit, you know, isn't a great thing to really talk about at the minute. And you don't really want to, you want to keep the guys talking, but you don't want to exhaust the conversation, I suppose is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So from what you're saying, less quantity, more quality is sort of the route that I suppose that's what we're here for, really, to see what other methods we can follow. Yeah.
You know, anything that is structured, I think, works. If something becomes a bit Groundhog Day, then it's not working. So if we've got specifics to work on, you know, a workshop structure around that is great. I mean, you guys have come up with some great ideas for engagement. But if we can have a look back and think about the 5 elements of engagement, you know, how we can provide people with autonomy, how we can make them feel valued, these types of things, you know, we might be able to sort of have a word with people in advance so they bring things to meetings rather than be in there and perform on the spot, for example. Well, there's a whole raft of things, and I think it's all around preparation, really, more than anything else, and the tools just facilitate it. Okay, thanks for that feedback. I just want to share this with you regarding change, because this is quite close to my heart. How we engage people in the business directly affects the success of any change initiative. Having the right answer isn't the right answer. A lot of the time, senior people say we are going to do this for these good business reasons. But if we start to talk to people about what matters to them in their world and show a flexible, adaptable approach, people in the business will explain to us how they want to receive information and when they're ready to hear more about and interact with the change that we're proposing. That's a really important distinction there. And if you consider this behavioural change stairway model, before we can achieve behavioural change on the right-hand side there, we have to develop empathy and understanding, trust and rapport with the people we're talking to by listening more than talking. Only then, once we've demonstrated understanding of their world, are we in that position to start influencing with what it is that we're asking them to change to or from. So we've got a lot of change happening in our organisations, and having an understanding of how we approach people and not pushing, not trying to sell, not trying to get to yes too quickly is really important in going through those stages to get behavioural change. Okay, I wanted to share that with you folks. So, somewhat, respect people's differences, innovate as much as possible, be courageous and try things. Also ask great questions to create an environment where people feel they can respond freely and demonstrate understanding of other people's worlds. That's really, really important for engagement. So lastly, how can I help you guys? So I do coaching, I do training in terms of change management, I do facilitation of groups, I do speaking on it. And as I say, I'm working with ARS and Helen in particular. So there's Helen's details. If you'd like to get in touch with me, we can have a chat about any of your requirements and see what we can do for you. Okay, folks.
Thank you, Simon. Just before we all go, because I know it's Friday, and as I think somebody's pointed out earlier, it's nearly 1 o'clock. Has anybody got any questions for Simon whilst he's here? I hope you've. Oh, we've got one. No, that's fine. Yeah, so I think we found that quite informative. I hope people have enjoyed it. But as Simon said, you know, if you've got any any training needs, or if you would like us to help you out with any of the slides that we're showing, we'll pass those on to you. But if we've no other questions from anybody just before a last shout? No? That's great. Thank you very much all for coming. It's really good to meet you. And thank you very much, Simon, for your presentation. It's really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Go on, bye.